Welcome back. I unfortunately had some data corruption on the second video about winding this warp. So the close-ups of the knots will have to wait till my next warp. But I am now vastly further along. Again, same issue with winding the warp onto the back beam. The video did not successfully stay on my tablet, but hopefully this will work just fine. Partly, I have a new tablet. So what I am doing at this stage is threading the warp threads through the heddles so that the pattern I've previously decided on will allow me to, when I put the treadle attached to a certain combination of heddles, it will lift those sets of heddles or shafts, harnesses, whichever term you use, and it will always pick up that combination of threads. That's what makes a floor loom so much more efficient for the body to use than, say, a table loom or even a rigid heddle loom. You can get complicated designs because what harnesses are up is controlled by your feet while your hands are busy passing the shuttle. You're basically splitting the load between two different parts of your body, which means both can be working, whereas on a table loom, you pass the shuttle, you beat, you then do your handles up and down, so it's individually lifting shafts, but you have to do that and it uses your hands, which means you've had to set down the shuttle before you can change the shed. And changing the shed, because there are no treadles, where if I press treadle, say 5, and it lifts 4 of these 12 shafts, I only need to press 5. Now, that's great if I only need, I believe it's 14 treadles I have here. If there's only 14 different combinations of harnesses I need, that's great. If I need more combinations, it can be a little tricky because you only have 2 feet. I can use 1 foot to do up to, say, 3, maybe even 4 treadles, but only if they're next to each other. If I need to do treadle 1, 5, and 10, I only have 2 feet and they're not next to each other. So I can't figure, I have to rig up something to push down that 3rd treadle. That doesn't work very well. So there are some things table looms are much better for, despite their body mechanic inefficiencies, than floor looms. Floor looms are good when you've got a limited number of treadles or can work it within the set limit of treadles, but it can be a lot faster than table loom weaving. Table loom weaving is a great choice when you need a huge variety of combinations of harnesses, but more than you have of treadles, though it is slower to do the actual weaving. You do, however, have an infinite combination of harnesses. There may or may not be a cat behind me making noises, sneaking in the bottoms of piles. We were adorably and aggressively adopted by a street cat who has made herself at home very blatantly, and we have been perfectly willing to be made home of. That said, there is a little bit of drama between the pre-existing boy cat and the new girl cat, who is just thoroughly unimpressed. So she likes sneaking into and under all the things in this space because it's not a space where he spends a lot of time. So there may or may not be a cat back behind that pile. All right, threading. Now, I am not precisely a new weaver myself. I have woven on floor looms before, though my experience is quite a while ago and limited. That said, that loom was a 4-shaft counterbalance Leclerc with metal heddles. There is something that I hadn't realized about metal heddles versus texsolve, because I have used texsolve on my Louette Erica, and I love my little Erica loom, but those texsolve heddles are under 6 inches. That's including the bar. So you just put your hand in there and go whoop, and they slide. If I put my hand on one of these, they don't. I have to slide the top and then the bottom and then so on. It's a new motion to get used to. It takes more time to do. Or I can slide them like this, which takes 2 hands, which is complicated and frustrating. Whereas with a metal one, you could go flick and it would slide. It would have momentum and it would just slide over. That being said, these texsolve are going to be very much lighter. In fact, part of why I bought this loom was how gentle it is on the body to use for more extended periods of time. Even if a heddle of this size made of metal might weigh somewhere between 3 and 5 bobby pins. Inconsequential, right? Not even worth, like, most of the coins in our pocket weigh more than that. Well, not dimes, but you get the idea. But there's like 400 on a shaft sometimes. The ones in the back have fewer. But even if it was just 300, but on all 12 shafts, that adds up a lot. And if I'm on a treadle that's lifting 4 shafts at a time, that is serious weight. And if I have to do that shaft every time I do plain weave, and then the other shaft for every time I do the other pick of plain weave, that adds up to knee stress, body stress in general, and all sorts of muscles and joints. It's minuscule in and of itself, but the repetitive motion of it is cumulative and significant. One of the reasons people love the Spring family of looms is because of how lightweight this harness setup is. The texsolve heddles, the fairly narrow wooden rather than metal pieces, even the end bits are plastic rather than metal. It is drastically lighter weight. It's also practically silent in comparison to the rattle and clank of the metal heddles. So for almost everything that I'm going to do with them moving forward, they're better. In this stage of threading, they're a little bit annoying. That is compounded by the fact that they are newly put onto the loom. Now, it's going to be hard to see some of this, but can you see that there's some that are like zigging and zagging around each other? It's okay if that's not visible on the camera, but it's sometimes hard to get the first one and get the tops. See, I pulled, okay, not this one. If I pull this one forward, it's bringing along a neighbor right here, and the bottom is bringing a second neighbor down here. They're a little hard to see because they're so pale, but that's the case. So you have to sort of separate them out, and that one was easy, but sometimes then they're like back here to get the next one, not so easy. So the irritation of sliding one over when you only need one will get about 40% better, I think, when they are not new first-time use of an otherwise previously bundled set, when they start to be truly in line. This is not helped by the fact that one batch on the backmost shaft that I'm using today, I missed cutting the loops between them. So every time I move the next one over, thankfully it's used half as often as the rest, I have to use my scissors and carefully snip underneath here without cutting anything else, which is frustrating. But I don't need it all that often, and I did a few ahead of time. So I did a couple in a row, so that'll stave it off for several passes. So now that I've been rambling on, you can see what's going on. My warp is going through the rattle at the top. I have a string tied around there as per the recommendations of James Stafford, as opposed to using rubber bands like I do on my Erica. This is so much wider. It's so much easier not have to pick out the rubber bands. The string works perfectly well. In fact, it's sometimes a little challenging to pull these down from the back. My least sticks are right here. You should be able to see them a little bit. My least sticks are right here. They are in the Helping Hands by Lofty Fiber. And yeah, that's worth its weight in gold. I have this for this loom. I also bought it for my Erica, where I haven't used them yet. But if they're as good as they are for this, perfect. They, in their upper position, held the least sticks right here, right behind the castle, which made it really easy to figure out how many threads I needed to put into the next dent of the rattle. And then now they're in the lower position because the slider's on the back, which means they're being held, instead of at a slant like this, they're held much flatter and just in my eye line right here, making it, again, much easier for me to access what's next. That way I'm still just pulling the next thread, or 2 threads in this case, because most of these were warped 2 threads at a time. So, okay, what am I threading? This is going to be point draw. So it's going from shaft 1 to shaft 8 and back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what I've been doing, with the exception of the first one, which is 1 through 8, all of these are either 2 through 8 or 7 through 1. So these are all 7 thread bundles. I thread them, I check them, I tie them, I pull over the next set. Now, as you can see, I have this set. This is a 2 through 8 bundle. And because I was last working with this over here, it's between them. So first I shift this to the other side. So if I need to, because I was stepped away to set up my camera, I can look at this and I can say, well, if I pull this way, it fans out like this, which means the one in the back is farther to the right than the one in the front, which means the one in the front is the one I did last, which makes sense. It ends on 1, which is why I need to actually start on 2, and I need to go 2 through 8. This one is over here because of our shenanigans playing around with moving them. That would have been a problem if I'd gotten that one wrong. So I should have 7 heddles, 1 for each shaft, and they are in fact already pulled over. 3, 6, 7. Perfect. I put them at a little bit of a slant in the working order. So this is 7, this is going to be 2 through 7, so I need to slant them this way. And then I start picking up my threads. So I'm working with a smallish bundle at a time. The rest are tied and up here still. According to my least sticks, I have a turquoise thread single because I used half of the pair on this set. So let's start with number 2. I put a loop in the thread, put the heddle towards me, and put it through. I'm finding with these, one of the advantages is I don't need a heddle hook. I do actually prefer to use one on the Erica, but that's because I can't crawl all up in its business and be at the heddles, because while it is a much smaller loom, I can't sort of take it apart and sit inside. Where here, I am genuinely inside this loom. I could take this off if I wanted to. I have taken the beater off, and I have taken the front beam off. I will try to put together a video of reassembling so you can see what I have taken off and show you where the least sticks are before I uninstall them. That said, I need to do the next threads. So the next one is going to be a pair. I'm looking at my least stick. I've got two. I split them up into how I think they come off the back beam, fold it, send it through, drop it, scooch, fold it, send it through. Now you've got to be careful that you don't accidentally loop around the remaining heddles or other things like that. There's minor things, but they do, you just have to be mindful of them, and it's easy to get used to being mindful of them. So this just hangs down here. All of the ones that are already done and knotted are back here. The ones that aren't are in front of the cloth beam. It's one of the reasons why I have kept the cloth beam installed, even though it's a really easy lift out like that. I find it useful to have the separation between here and these. All right, next. Okay, that's two more. Now I have the brown threads, which were so fine, I ended up treating them as doubled, which meant I was actually winding 4 strands to be 2 ends. These are a tiny bit more annoying to thread through the loop without a heddle hook, but the fact that I don't need to pick up and put down a tool every time, it's worth it. All right, so one of the things I do is I check that I do in fact have 2, 4, 6, 7 distinct separate, and that they are again fanning out like this. Then I put them more straight in line, make sure I'm as close to in line with where this wrapped as I can. It's a little condensed right now because I still need to work here, but I will go through and sort of fan that out like that later. It will get corrected by the reed and tension and so forth, and just use. Okay, so this was 2 through 8, right? So now I need to do 7 through 1. So picking the next set, 2, 4, 6, 7. So I need to start with 1 here. So I find it useful to put my finger along the flat of the back. It makes it pretty easy to get the next one, though not always the correct next one, because sometimes the loops are twisted, but these are in a specific order in the middle. But as you can see, it's trying to drag the whole bunch, so I have to separate that. Now I don't bring it all the way over, because I need to collect its compatriots. So there's this one. Again, one that's very tucked in with others. This is the part that will get better once it's been done once. Okay, see, this time I brought 2, which means I need to actually go here to pick the next eye, right? Okay. Foop. This one's another section where they're sort of over looping each other at the top and bottom rails. That one was just trying to be 2 together. So is that one. When it's two together, I sort of leave the second follower, or the first follower, the additional one, a little bit forward of the pack, making it easier to pick up next time. So I have 3, 6, 7. I look at the bottom, I make sure they're one from each shaft, and scooch this to the other side, and start with splitting my 4 into the 2. Okay, so since I did 8 last, I need to do next 7. 1, 2, get them tucked a little bit. Next set. 5, 4, and 3, 2, and I'm going to need to use half of the next one, which happens to be teal. And have a knot in the bottom. This is one of those places where I had to tie threads together, which meant I might have gone around the peg in the wrong way, so its loop didn't get clipped when I clipped the loop like this. That's happened a couple of times, especially with my stripy stripes as opposed to my solid stripes. These have all these color stripes in them. This is solid teal. And I am more amused than I have any reason to be by the word stripy stripe, and that I get to use it for a good reason because it actually means what I need it to mean. And that's that. And I just keep on keeping on. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you enjoy your own weaving. Have fun. And thank you for coming along on this weaving journey with me. Please like and subscribe or rewatch. It helps me make my channel show up to YouTube. Have fun.